The devil is, according to Christianity and Islam, the primary opponent of God. Christianity identifies the devil with the serpent who tempted Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, and describes him as a fallen angel who terrorizes the world through evil, is the antithesis of truth, and shall be condemned, together with the fallen angels who follow him, to eternal fire at the Last Judgment. Islam identifies the devil with all those who oppose Allah. Some non-Abrahamic religions contain figures similar to the devil, such as the Buddhist demon Mara and the Zoroastrian spirit Angra Mainyu. Etymology: the modern English word devil descends from the Middle English devil, from Old English diafol, that in turn represents an early Germanic borrowing of Latin diabolus. This in turn was borrowed from ancient Greek delta iota alpha beta omicron lambda omicron sigma slanderer, from Greek delta iota alpha beta alpha lambda lambda epsilon iota nu to slander, delta iota alpha across through plus beta alpha lambda lambda epsilon iota nu to hurl, probably akin to the Sanskrit gurate, he lifts up. In the New Testament, Satan occurs more than 30 times in passages alongside diabolos, referring to the same person of thing as Satan. Abrahamic religions. Judaism. In mainstream Judaism, there is no concept of a devil as in mainstream Christianity or Islam. Texts make no direct link between the serpent that tempts Eve in the Garden of Eden in Genesis and references to Satan in 1 Chronicles and in Job. For the Hasidim of the 18th century, Satan was Baal Dava. Apocrypha. Deuterocanon. In the Book of Wisdom, the devil is represented as the one who brought death into the world. The second book of Enoch contains references to a watcher angel called Sataniel, describing him as the prince of the Grigori who was cast out of heaven and an evil spirit who knew the difference between what was righteous and sinful. A similar story is found in 1 Enoch. However, in that book, the leader of the Grigori is called Semjaza. In the apocryphal literature, Satan rules over a host of angels. Mastema, who induced God to test Abraham through the sacrifice of Isaac, is identical with Satan in both name and nature. The Book of Enoch contains references to Sathariel, thought also to be Sataniel and Satanal. The similar spellings mirror that of his angelic brethren Michael, Raphael, Uriel and Gabriel, previous to his expulsion from heaven. Christianity. In mainstream Christianity, the devil is usually referred to as Satan. Some modern Christians consider the devil to be an angel who, along with 1/3 of the angelic host, rebelled against God and has consequently been condemned to the lake of fire. He is described as hating all humanity, opposing God, spreading lies and wreaking havoc on the souls of mankind. Other modern Christians consider the devil in the Bible to refer figuratively to human sin and temptation and to any immoral human system. Satan is often identified as the serpent who convinced Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. Thus, Satan has often been depicted as a serpent, though this identification is not present in the Adam and Eve narrative. This interpretation goes back at least as far as the time of the writing of the Book of Revelation, which specifically identifies Satan as being the serpent. In the Bible, the devil is identified with the dragon and the old serpent. In the Book of Revelation chapter 12 verse 9, 20-2 have also been identified with Satan, as have the prince of this world in the Gospel of John chapter 12 verse 31, 14-30, and the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience in the Epistle to the Ephesians chapter 2 verse 2, and the god of this world in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 4. He is also identified as the dragon in the Book of Revelation. and the tempter of the Gospels. The devil is sometimes called Lucifer, particularly when describing him as an angel before his fall, although the reference in Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12 to Lucifer, or the son of the morning, is a reference to a Babylonian king. Beelzebub is originally the name of a Philistine god but is also used in the New Testament as a synonym for Satan. A corrupted version, Beelzebub, appears in the Divine Comedy. In other, non-mainstream Christian beliefs, the word Satan in the Bible is not regarded as referring to a supernatural, personal being but to any adversary, and figuratively refers to human sin and temptation. Islam. In Islam, the devil is referred to as Iblis or sometimes the Shaitan. Etymologically, Iblis means the desperate in Arabic. Thus, the name Iblis can be seen as a sobriquet given to Shaitan after falling from grace. According to the Book of Enoch in the Talmud, Azazel was the chief of the fallen angels who disobeyed God by committing adultery with women and teaching mankind magic and weaponry, leading to the biblical flood of Noah. According to the Quran, God created Iblis, along with all of the other jinn, out of smokeless fire. The primary characteristic of the devil, besides hubris, is that he has no power other than the power to cast evil suggestions into the hearts of men and women. The Quran says that Satan was among the angels whom God ordered to bow down to Adam after his creation. It says in 1850, "And when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, and they prostrated, except for Iblis. He was of the jinn and departed from the command of his Lord. Then will you take him and his descendants as allies other than me while they are enemies to you? Wretched it is for the wrongdoers as an exchange." Whether Iblis was actually an angel or a jinn whom God elevated to the angelic assembly is a matter of debate among Muslim scholars. Some scholars, such as Ibn Abbas, believed that Iblis was actually an angel whom God created out of fire. He was the most worshipful and knowledgeable of angels. Thus, when the Quran identifies Iblis as a jinn, it means that he belonged to a class of fiery creatures called jinn, which encompasses both heavenly jinn and earthly jinn. Such a notion is evocative of the biblical seraphim, a rank of angels looking like burning fire. Long before Adam was created, traditions narrate earthly jinn roamed the earth and spread corruption upon it. As a result, God sent an army of angels under the leadership of Iblis to fight them. Iblis' ego conflated after his victory on earth. He thought he was better than any other creature, and thus God's favorite. God's creation of Adam and his order to the angels to venerate him was a blow to Iblis' pride. While all the angels obeyed God and bowed down to Adam, Iblis disobeyed haughtily, saying 38-76, "I am better than him. You created me from fire and created him from clay." Consequently, God expelled Iblis from heaven, with the latter promising to lure mankind into disbelief and evil as an act of revenge from the father Adam. Also, some scholars call Iblis the peacock of angels, referencing his foolish hubris. On the other hand, other scholars believe that there are no such things as heavenly jinn or fiery angels, and thus Iblis was not an angel. He was a jinn whom God elevated to heaven as a reward for his worship and righteousness. This explains why Iblis managed to refuse God's order, as angels do not have free will. They obey God's orders without questioning or complaining. As for the angels, they prostrated before Adam to show the homage and obedience to God. However, Iblis, adamant in his view that man is inferior, and unlike angels was given the ability to choose, made a choice of not obeying God. This caused him to be expelled by God, a fact that Iblis blamed on humanity. Hassan of Basra, an eminent Muslim theologian who lived in the 7th century AD, was quoted as saying, "Iblis was not an angel even for the time of an eye wink." He is the origin of jinn as Adam is of mankind. Initially, the devil was successful in deceiving Adam, but once his intentions became clear, Adam and Eve repented to God and were freed from the misdeeds and forgiven. God gave them a strong warning about Iblis and the fires of hell and asked them and the children to stay away from the deceptions of the senses, caused by the devil. According to the verses of the Quran, the devil's mission until the Qiyamah, resurrection day, is to deceive Adam's children. After that, he will be put into the fires of hell along with those whom he has deceived. The devil is also referred to as one of the jinn, as they are all created from the smokeless fire. The Quran does not depict Iblis as enemy of God, as God is supreme over all his creations and Iblis is just one of his creations. Iblis' single enemy is humanity. He intends to discourage humans from obeying God. Thus, humankind is warned to struggle against the mischief of Iblis and the temptations he puts them in. The ones who succeed in this are rewarded with paradise, attainable only by righteous conduct. Sufi view of the devil. Sufism teaches that people should love God without expecting anything in return. Consequently, unrequited love is regarded by Sufis as that perfect type of love because the pining lover expects nothing in return. Thus, some Sufis see Satan as the paradigm of love and the perfect lover. Despite the traditional interpretation of Satan's fall from grace as an act of excessive pride and rebellion against God, some Sufis see it as an act of self-sacrifice for God's love. Satan refused to bow down to Adam out of his uncompromising monotheism and devotion. He refused to venerate anything or anyone but God. Al-Ghazali, a well-known medieval Sufi Muslim theologian, narrated, encountering Iblis on the slopes of Sinai, Moses hailed him and asked, "O Iblis, why did you not prostrate before Adam?" Quote, Iblis replied, "Heaven forbid that anyone worship anything but the One." This command was a test. Satan believed that God ordered him to bow down to Adam to test his love for him. Satan should maintain his love for God at any cost. So, even if the cost of Satan's refusal to prostrate before Adam is falling from grace, he should proceed with it out of his unconditional love for God. Abdul Karim Jili, a Muslim Sufi saint, believed that after the Day of Judgment, hell will cease to exist, and Satan will be back to the service of God as one of his cherished angels. Baha'i faith. In the Baha'i faith, a malevolent, superhuman entity such as a devil or Satan is not believed to exist. These terms do, however, appear in the Baha'i writings, where they are used as metaphors for the lower nature of man. Human beings are seen to have free will, and are thus able to turn towards God and develop spiritual qualities or turn away from God and become immersed in the self-centered desires. Individuals who follow the temptations of the self and do not develop spiritual virtues are often described in the Baha'i writings with the word satanic. The Baha'i writings also state that the devil is a metaphor for the insistent self, or lower self, which is a self-serving inclination within each individual. Those who follow their lower nature are also described as followers of the evil one. Yazidism. Yazidis believe that God created the world and entrusted it to the care of 7 holy beings, among whom was Melek Taus. When God ordered his holy beings to prostrate before Adam, Melek Taus refused to carry out God's order out of his devotion to him. As a result, God made him the leader of all angels and his deputy on earth. An alternative name for the main deity in the tentatively Indo-European pantheon of the Yazidi Melek Taus is Shaitan, rather than satanic. However, Yazidism is better understood as a remnant of a pre-Islamic Middle Eastern religion, an Uyghulit Sufi movement founded by Sheikh Hadi ibn Musafir. The connection with Satan, originally made by Muslim outsiders, attracted the interest of 19th-century European travelers and esoteric writers. The Yazidi narrative of Melek Taus bears a striking resemblance to the Islamic account of the devil. Also, some Muslim scholars named the devil the peacock of angels, a term almost equivalent to Melek Taus, king peacock. Figures similar to the devil in other religions. Zoroastrianism. Angra Mainyu is the Avestan language name of Zoroastrianism's hypostasis of the destructive spirit. The Middle Persian equivalent is Ahriman. According to the most common Zoroastrian notion, he is the twin spirit of Spenta Mainyu, the positive emanation of the almighty and all-knowing Ahura Mazda. Buddhism. Mara is attempt to figure in Buddhism, distracting humans from practicing the spiritual life by making mundane things alluring, or the negative seem positive. He is the demon that tempted Gautama Buddha by trying to seduce him with the vision of beautiful women who, in various legends, are often said to be Mara's daughters. In Buddhist cosmology, Mara personifies unwholesome impulses, unskillfulness, the death of the spiritual life. Ancient Egypt. Apep or Apophis was the ancient Egyptian deity who embodied chaos and was thus the opponent of light and Ma. He appears in art as a giant serpent. His name is reconstructed by Egyptologists as *Api, as it was written Pp and survived in later Coptic as Apho. The deity Set was originally associated with both positive and negative roles, a protector of Ra on the solar boat from the Serpent of Chaos, and an usurper who killed and mutilated his brother just to assume the throne. However, he was later demonized and he became quite unpopular. According to Herman the the demonization of Set took place after Egypt's conquest by several foreign nations in the Third Intermediate and Late periods. Set, who had traditionally been the god of foreigners, thus also became associated with foreign oppressors, including the Assyrian and Persian empires. It was during this time that Set was particularly vilified, and his defeat by Horus widely celebrated. Set's negative aspects were emphasized during this period. Set was the killer of Osiris, having hacked Osiris's body into pieces and dispersed it so that he could not be resurrected. The Greeks later linked Set with Typhon because both were evil forces, storm deities, and sons of the earth that attacked the main god. Nevertheless, throughout this period, in some outlying regions of Egypt, Set was still regarded as the heroic chief deity. Set has also been classed as a trickster deity who, as a god of disorder, resorts to deception to achieve bad ends. Other names. Demons. In some religions and traditions, these titles are separate demons. Others identify these names as guises of the devil. Even when thought of as individual demons, some are often thought of being under the devil's direct control. This identifies only those thought of as the devil. List of demons has a more general listing. Titles. A list of liturgical names for the devil may be found in Geoffrey Burton Russell, Lucifer, the Devil in the Middle Ages, p. 128, note 76 online. These are titles that almost always refer to devil figures. Claims that the God of the Old Testament is the devil. Several religious authors throughout history have advanced the notion that the God of the Old Testament is consistent in character with the devil. They make the case that the biblical God is a divine force that wreaks suffering, death and destruction and that tempts or commands humanity into committing mayhem and genocide. Tertullian accuses Marcion of Sinope, the first great heretic of Christianity in the 1st century, that the Old Testament was a scandal to the faithful and accounted for it by postulating a secondary deity, a demiurgus, who was God, in a sense, but not the supreme God. He was just, rigidly just. He had his good qualities, but he was not the good God, who was Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. The Church condemned his writings as heretical. John Naranson in the Catholic Encyclopedia mentions that Eusebius accused Apelles, the 2nd century AD Gnostic, of considering the inspirer of Old Testament prophecies to be not a god, but an evil angel. Herminius accuses the Persian prophet Mani, founder of the Manichaean sect in the 3rd century AD, identified Jehovah as the devil god which created the world, and said that he who spoke with Moses, the Jews, and the priests is the of darkness, not the God of truth. These writings refer to the Jewish God variously as a demiurgus, and evil angel, the devil god, the prince of darkness, the source of all evil, the devil, a demon, a cruel, wrathful, warlike tyrant, Satan, and the first beast of the Book of Revelation.